The room was quiet except for the steady beep of the monitor and the faint hum of the air vent. It was past 2 in the morning at Chicago General Hospital, and Maya Lopez lay propped against thin pillows, her newborn daughter resting on her chest. The world outside could wait. Inside, it was just the two of them, skin to skin, warmth against warmth. Her phone lay on the bedside table, screen dark, until she reached for it. With one hand, she held her daughter steady. With the other, she lifted the phone and angled it just enough to capture the tiny face pressed against her collarbone. The baby's hand had already unfurled like a star, fingers stretching into the air as if claiming her place in the world. Maya pressed the shutter, one photo, one sentence typed beneath it. "Hello world, you're all I have, and you're enough." She posted it. The screen dimmed. The phone slid back onto the table. For a moment, she simply breathed, eyes closed, letting the rhythm of the monitor match the rhythm of her child's chest. Down the corridor, a nurse pushed a cart, its wheels squeaking softly against linoleum. A door opened, then closed. The night carried on. Maya kissed the crown of her daughter's head and whispered, "It's us now, just us." Across the city, a single lamp burned in the meeting room of a private establishment on the south side. The walls were dark wood, the air thick with the scent of old leather and cigar smoke. A glass of whiskey sat untouched on the desk. Dante Santoro leaned against the edge of the mahogany surface, scrolling through his phone with little interest. His feed was the usual: messages from associates, a few news articles, family photos he hadn't asked to see. Then, without warning, a picture appeared, shared by someone who knew someone. He stopped. The caption was simple. The face was not. Maya, the woman he had loved, the woman who had disappeared a year ago, vanishing the very season she had carried a secret he never knew existed. The baby in her arms, tiny and new, carried a faint crescent along her neck, a birthmark he knew too well, the same mark that had been passed down through his family for 3 generations. His chest tightened. For a moment, he couldn't breathe. He could have scrolled past. He didn't. He could have set the phone down. He didn't. Instead, Dante pulled his keys from the desk, left the lamp burning, and walked straight out into the night. Minutes later, his black SUV cut through the near-empty streets, headlights sliding across quiet storefronts and shuttered restaurants. His mind ran faster than the city lights, circling only one truth. Maya hadn't left him by choice, and now she wasn't alone. Chicago General was still awake in its own way. Nurses at the desk, the occasional page over the intercom, the hum of machines behind closed doors. He asked for her by name, voice steady but urgent. A nurse hesitated, then pointed him toward the 12th floor. Room 412, he stood outside the door for a breath longer than he should have. Behind it came the soft rhythm of life he hadn't known he'd been missing. He knocked. 2 quick taps, more question than demand. "Come in." Her voice, familiar, steady. He stepped inside. No flowers, no visitors, no balloons, just Maya, pale but strong, her child curled against her. Their eyes met. No tears, no embrace, only the weight of a history neither had chosen to bury. "You shouldn't be here," she said quietly, her hand adjusting the blanket around the baby. "You posted," Dante answered, his voice low. "Someone shared it. I saw." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "Your family saw me first. Last year. They didn't shout, didn't threaten. They didn't need to. They made sure I understood what my presence would cost you." She paused, her gaze unflinching. "And then they closed the door." The air in the room seemed to thin. Dante's jaw tightened. "They spoke to you and never told me." "They spoke at me," Maya corrected. Her eyes held his, unwavering. "So I walked away. I prepared for this moment alone." She looked down at the sleeping child. "Until tonight." Dante drew closer, not to her, but to the chair beside the bed. He rested his hand on the back of it and said quietly, "I didn't know. I should have, but I didn't." Maya studied him for a long moment, then nodded toward the chair. "Then sit. If you're here, sit, but don't say things you won't keep tomorrow." He sat. The monitor kept time. The baby stirred, let out a small sigh, and settled again. Dante watched, silent, his hands folded in his lap as if anchoring himself to the chair. For the first time in a year, Maya allowed him to exist in the same room. No longer a stranger, not yet forgiven, just present. The night outside was thinning, the horizon just beginning to pale with the first hint of dawn. Inside room 412, time moved differently, each second stretched by the silence that held them. Maya adjusted the blanket around her daughter, her movements steady, deliberate, as though order could keep chaos at bay. Dante sat in the chair, unmoving, his dark coat still on. His shoes carried the weight of late nights and private meetings, not hospital corridors. He looked out of place, but he didn't leave. Finally, Maya broke the silence. "You should go." Her tone was firm, not cruel, simply protective. "This isn't your world." Dante leaned forward, elbows resting on his knees. "It was ours once, and her eyes lifted sharp. "Until your family decided otherwise." The words hit with precision. He nodded slowly as if taking a blow he knew was deserved. "They never told me," he said quietly. "Not once, America." "If they had," Maya cut in, voice tight, "what would you have done? Stood up to them? Walked away from everything with me? Or would you have asked me to wait in the shadows until it was convenient?" The baby stirred, a soft whimper rising before Maya gently rocked her back into calm. The sound filled the room, delicate and insistent, like a reminder that the conversation was no longer about past lovers, but about the fragile life between them. Dante lowered his voice. "I didn't come here to fight you. I came because I saw her and because—" He faltered, not from uncertainty, but from the gravity of the words. "Because she looks like me." Maya's shoulders stiffened. For a moment she didn't answer. Then she whispered, "She looks like herself. She's not a copy of you or me. She's her own person." Dante let the correction stand. He watched as Maya pressed her lips to the baby's forehead, her expression softening in a way he hadn't seen in years. The door opened slightly, a nurse peeking in to check the monitor. Her eyes darted from Maya to Dante, sensing tension she wasn't meant to witness. She adjusted the drip, scribbled a note, and slipped out without a word. Maya's voice carried after the door clicked shut. "I don't want lawyers, Dante. I don't want headlines. I don't want your mother or your associates deciding who she gets to be. I just want to raise her without someone telling me she's a problem to solve." Dante rose to his feet slowly. He stood beside the bed, careful not to overstep. His gaze lowered to the child, then lifted to Maya. "Then let me be clear," he said. "I'm not here to hide her or you. I'm here because I can't unknow what I know, and I won't walk away." The conviction in his tone made Maya's breath catch. She searched his face, waiting for hesitation, for some crack that would reveal doubt. But it wasn't there. "Words are easy," she murmured. "I'll prove it," Dante replied. The monitor beeped steadily, marking the quiet oath between them. For the first time, Maya didn't ask him to leave. Morning light crept into the hospital room, soft but unyielding. The blinds cut it into stripes that fell across the floor where Dante still stood, refusing to leave. Maya had dozed off in the chair, the baby resting against her chest, her breathing shallow but steady. Dante didn't dare move closer, but he stayed, as if his presence alone might keep the room from collapsing under the weight of everything unsaid. When Maya stirred awake, her eyes found him immediately. She didn't look surprised, only resigned. "You're still here," she said, voice rough from exhaustion. "I said I wouldn't walk away," Dante replied. Her gaze lingered on him, searching for cracks in his resolve. Finally, she shifted the baby carefully into the bassinet, her hands trembling slightly from fatigue. "You don't get to come back after a year and act like this erases what happened." "I know," Dante admitted. "I can't undo it, but I can take responsibility now." Before Maya could answer, the door opened. A nurse wheeled in a tray with breakfast and a stack of paperwork. She placed the documents on the side table, then left with a polite nod. Maya flipped through the papers. Forms for birth records, emergency contacts, insurance. Her hand paused at the line for the father's name. The pen hovered, then lowered. She left it blank. Dante saw, and his jaw tightened. He walked closer, voice measured but firm. "Don't erase me from her life before it even begins." Maya looked up sharply. "You think it's that simple? A name on paper doesn't raise a child. Being there does." Her voice caught, anger and hurt tangling together. And you weren't there. I didn't know, Dante said, his voice low, steady. If I had, he stopped himself, knowing promises about the past were worthless. All I can do is prove it now. The room thickened with silence again, broken only by the distant sounds of carts rolling down the corridor. Maya turned back to the form, then pressed the pen into the paper with a sharp stroke, signing only her own name. She slid the clipboard aside. This is my daughter. She has me. That's enough. Dante's chest tightened, but he didn't argue. Instead, he stepped back, giving her space. His eyes, however, never left the child in the bassinet. Finally, he spoke quietly. If you don't want me here for you, fine. But I'm here for her. Even if I have to stand on the other side of the glass, I'll be here. The conviction in his tone unsettled Maya. She folded her arms, looking at him as though trying to measure how much of the man she once knew remained. For the first time since his arrival, her expression softened, only slightly, only for a second. Then she drew in a breath, steadying herself. We'll see, she said, and nothing more. Dante nodded once. He had drawn his line in the sand, and Maya had drawn hers. The quiet of morning gave way to the hum of hospital life. Footsteps in the hall, the squeak of wheels, the faint aroma of disinfectant. Maya sat on the edge of the bed, adjusting the blanket around her daughter. Dante lingered nearby, his posture stiff but unyielding, like a man determined not to miss a single breath the child took. A soft knock broke the uneasy calm. A nurse stepped in with a clipboard. Discharge papers, Miss Lopez. If everything checks out, you and your baby can go home today. Maya's hand tightened on the blanket. Going home. Alone. For a year, she had prepared for this moment, convinced she would manage. But now, Dante's presence complicated everything. She glanced at him, then back at the nurse. I'll need a few minutes. The nurse nodded and slipped out. Silence thickened again. Dante spoke first. Where will you go? Maya lifted her chin. Back to my apartment. It's not much, but it's safe. It's ours. I'm not questioning that, Dante said, voice low but steady. I'm asking because I want to help. Her eyes narrowed. Help or control? There's a difference. The words cut sharper than she intended, but Dante didn't flinch. He stepped closer, careful, like approaching fragile glass. Maya, I can't rewrite the past. I can't undo what my family did. But I can stand beside you now. I won't decide for you. I just want to be allowed in. Maya looked away, focusing on her daughter's tiny fingers curled into the blanket. Her voice softened but stayed guarded. You weren't there when I needed you most. Why should I believe you'll stay now? Dante hesitated, searching for words that weren't empty. Then he crouched beside the bassinet, eyes locked on the infant. His hand hovered, then rested gently on the rail. Because walking away once cost me everything. I didn't even know it at the time. I won't make that mistake again. For the first time, Maya didn't argue. She didn't agree either, but her silence wasn't rejection. It was something in between. A moment later, the nurse returned with the papers. Maya signed slowly, her name steady, her expression unreadable. Dante watched, silent. When the paperwork was done, Maya lifted her daughter into her arms, adjusting the small hat on the baby's head. She moved toward the door. Dante reached for the handle first, holding it open. He didn't speak, didn't insist. Maya stepped past him, pausing just briefly. Her eyes flicked toward his. For the first time, the weight between them carried not only anger, but possibility. And together, uneasy, unspoken, they left the hospital behind. The automatic doors of Chicago General slid open, releasing Maya into the crisp morning air. The city was already awake, sirens in the distance, traffic humming, a street vendor setting up his cart on the corner. Maya clutched her daughter tightly, adjusting the blanket against the wind. Dante walked a half step behind, carrying the small hospital bag she had packed weeks earlier. Outside, the reality hit her. No more nurses checking vitals, no soft beep of the monitor. It was just her, the baby, in a world that hadn't waited. She stopped at the curb. Her old sedan, dented at the side, sat parked awkwardly beneath a flickering streetlight. She had left it there in a rush 2 nights earlier, not knowing how different her life would look now. Dante glanced at the car, then at her. Does it still run? Maya shot him a look. It gets me where I need to go. He nodded but didn't argue. Instead, he opened the back door carefully, waiting while she secured the car's seat. His movements were deliberate, respectful. No sudden gestures, no intrusion, just presence. When everything was in place, Maya slid behind the wheel. Dante stood there for a moment, as if debating whether to step back or hold his ground. Finally, Maya rolled down the window. Her voice was quiet but firm. "You don't need to follow me." "I know," Dante replied, "but I will anyway, at least until I know you're safe." For a second, she wanted to push back, to draw the line sharper. But something in his tone stopped her. It wasn't ownership. It wasn't control. It was steady. She sighed, started the engine, and pulled into traffic. In the mirror, his black SUV merged in behind her, keeping distance yet refusing to vanish. The drive to her neighborhood on the west side was short but felt endless. Rows of aging brick apartments, shuttered shops, and cracked sidewalks came into view. Maya parked outside her building, the paint peeling from the stairwell door. She gathered the baby, pressed a kiss to her forehead, and walked inside. Dante followed only to the entrance. He didn't cross the threshold. Instead, he spoke from the doorway. "Maya, I meant what I said. I'm not here to take over your life, but I can't ignore her, or you." Maya paused halfway up the stairs. The baby stirred against her chest, and for the briefest moment, her eyes softened. Then she turned away, climbing the rest of the steps without answering. Dante stood there in the dim hallway, watching until the sound of her door clicking shut echoed above him. He exhaled slowly, alone now, but more resolved than ever. The apartment was quiet except for the baby's soft whimpers. Maya laid her daughter in the second-hand crib by the window. The paint on its frame chipped from years of use. She sank into the worn sofa, exhaustion pressing down like a weight she could no longer hide. Bills were stacked on the coffee table. Rent, utilities, medical forms, all waiting, all louder than silence. From the street below came the low hum of an engine. She knew it was him. Dante hadn't left. Even without looking, she felt his persistence anchored outside. It both unsettled and, strangely, steadied her. Her phone buzzed on the armrest. A message. "Not here to intrude, just park nearby. If you need formula, diapers, or anything, text me. No strings." Maya stared at the words, her throat tightening. She didn't reply. Not yet. Later that night, rain streaked across the narrow window. Maya rocked the baby gently when a knock sounded at her door. Firm but careful, her neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez, stood there holding a grocery bag. "Someone left this downstairs for you," she said, eyes kind. Inside the bag, infant formula, a small pack of diapers, and a handwritten note. No pressure. Just what I would have wanted someone to do if I had been in your shoes. Maya's hand trembled as she set the note aside. She wanted to be angry, wanted to call it charity. But the truth cut deeper. It wasn't pity, it was responsibility. And it was new. Across town, Dante sat in his SUV outside a closed restaurant, rain tapping the windshield. His phone glowed with a single unsent message. "I should have known. I should have fought harder to find you." But he didn't hit send. Instead, he leaned back, closing his eyes, realizing this was not about what he felt. It was about proving, over time, that his presence wasn't temporary. The following week blurred into sleepless nights. Maya balanced feedings, diaper changes, and the relentless weight of unpaid bills. Yet Dante's quiet presence threaded through her days. He never crossed the threshold, but groceries appeared at her door. Envelopes slid under the mat, always anonymous, though she knew exactly where they came from. One evening, Maya returned from a quick pharmacy run, her daughter nestled in the carrier against her chest. As she turned the corner onto her street, she froze. Dante was standing on the sidewalk, not with his usual restraint, but in sharp confrontation with an older woman in a tailored coat. Maya's chest tightened. She recognized her instantly. Isabella Santoro, Dante's mother. Isabella's voice cut through the night, low but edged with authority. "Dante, this is unsustainable. If that child is truly yours, we will handle it our way. Quietly, lawyers, trusts, discretion. No need for scenes like this." Maya clutched her baby tighter, anger burning through her fatigue. She stepped forward. "Don't talk about my daughter like she's a problem to bury." Isabella turned, startled, her polished composure faltering at the sight of Maya. For a moment, silence hung between the three of them. The rain-slicked street, the faint neon from a corner store buzzing above. Dante's jaw tightened. He stepped closer, positioning himself between them. Mother, enough. This isn't your decision, and it never was. Isabella's eyes narrowed. You don't understand what you're risking. Your name, the family business. I understand exactly, Dante cut in. His voice was steady, colder than Maya had ever heard. What I won't risk is repeating the same mistake. Believing silence protects anyone. It doesn't. It destroys. The words struck Maya harder than she expected. He wasn't speaking only to his mother. He was speaking to her, too. Isabella's lips pressed thin, but she didn't argue further. With a sharp turn, she walked away, her heels striking the pavement like gavel blows. The street fell quiet again. Dante turned to Maya, his expression softer now. Rain clung to his hair, his coat, but his eyes were unwavering. They kept things from me before. I let distance steal my choice. Not this time. For the first time since he appeared in that hospital room, Maya didn't see Dante as an intruder or a name from the past. She saw him as a man fighting to stand where he once failed. She held her baby close, torn between walls built from betrayal and the truth unfolding right in front of her. The night pressed in, heavy and electric. Something had shifted irreversibly. The storm from that night lingered in Maya's chest long after Isabella's heels clicked away into the dark. She had seen Dante resist before, but never against his own blood. That image refused to leave her. The son who once obeyed, now breaking ranks to defend a child barely a month old. Still, words could only carry so far. Maya knew that. She had carried promises before, only to watch them unravel. 2 nights later, exhaustion finally broke through her fragile rhythm. At 3 in the morning, the baby cried, sharp, urgent. Maya stumbled from bed, arms heavy, head swimming. She reached the crib and almost collapsed against it. A firm knock rattled the door. For a split second, fear jolted her awake. Then came a voice, low, steady. Maya, it's me. Open up. Dante. She hesitated, then unlocked the door. He stood there, hair unkempt, shirt sleeves rolled, holding 2 steaming cups of coffee in one hand and a paper bag in the other. His eyes searched hers. No grand speech, just concern. You look like you hadn't slept in days. I figured you might need backup. Before she could answer, the baby wailed again. Instinctively, Dante stepped inside. He set the coffee down, washed his hands at the sink like he'd done it 1,000 times, and reached for the infant with careful hands. Maya froze. This was the test. Could he hold their child not like a stranger, not like a visitor, but like a father? The baby's cries softened as Dante adjusted his grip, rocking gently, murmuring nonsense syllables that somehow threaded into a rhythm. His voice cracked once as if carrying memory, but he didn't stop. Within minutes, the small body sagged into calm sleep against his chest. Maya leaned against the wall, torn between fatigue and something deeper. An ache that was not pain, but the release of it. She whispered, almost to herself, she never settles that fast. Dante didn't look up. His eyes were on the child. Maybe she just needed to know both of us were here. Silence followed. Not the silence of avoidance, but of recognition. Maya realized this was not a man checking in for appearances. This was someone arriving when the world was asleep, when there were no cameras, no associates, no audience. Just need and response. As dawn edged through the blinds, Dante was still there, half asleep in the armchair, baby on his chest, the empty coffee cups cold. For the first time, Maya allowed herself to believe. Maybe he wasn't just visiting a story already written. Maybe he was rewriting it with her, one sleepless night at a time. Saturday morning brought a fragile calm. Maya sat by the window rocking the baby when her phone buzzed with a message from Dante. Let me take you both out. Not far, just fresh air, no headlines. Trust me. Her first instinct was to say no. The world outside had teeth, neighbors with questions, whispers in the grocery store, the constant pressure of being the woman with the baby and no father in sight. But she remembered last night, Dante dozing in the chair, coffee cold, their daughter asleep on his chest. That memory pushed her to type a single word. Okay, they met at a small cafe tucked between a laundromat and a florist. Nothing fancy, No cameras, no business associates. Dante arrived first, already holding a high chair he had asked the staff to set up. When Maya walked in, baby carrier strapped to her front, heads turned. Not because she was alone this time, but because Dante Santoro, the untouchable figure known only through whispers, stood to meet her, his expression unguarded. He reached for the diaper bag like it was the most natural thing in the world. The waitress blinked twice before finding her voice. "Coffee for you both?" Maya managed to nod, cheeks warm. Dante sat opposite, adjusting the baby's blanket with careful fingers. It wasn't a performance. It was intimacy spilling into public view. Across the street, a man with a camera phone paused. A click, a flash too quick to stop. Maya stiffened. Dante caught it, jaw tightening. He leaned in. "It's going to spread. We can't stop that. But I don't want you to hide anymore." Her breath hitched. "You don't get to decide what I face." His eyes softened. "Then decide with me, not against me." The baby stirred, fussed. Dante lifted her gently, swaying until she quieted. Right there in the cafe, full of strangers, conversations hushed. For the first time, people saw not a man from whispered stories, not a scandal waiting to explode, but a father learning how to hold his child. By the time they stepped back onto the sidewalk, the first photo had already surfaced online. Dante Santoro spotted with mysterious woman and baby. Maya's phone buzzed with notifications, a storm beginning to brew. Dante looked at her, steady. "We can face them together." She didn't answer, but she didn't let go of his hand when he offered it either. By Monday morning, the city woke to headlines. Dante Santoro seen with unknown woman and baby. Double life? Mystery mother linked to Santoro family. Maya sat on her couch, the baby in her arms, the television buzzing with commentary she didn't ask for. Strangers dissected her face, her past, even the shape of the baby's eyes. She muted the screen, chest tight. The knock on the door startled her. Dante stood there, phone in hand, coat unbuttoned. His expression was unreadable, but his first words were steady. "They called a family meeting. They want answers." At the Santoro establishment, the private room was heavy with dark wood and colder eyes. Photos on the wall displayed the family history, generations of men who had built something that demanded respect. Isabella sat at the far end of the table, arms crossed, her silence louder than any accusation. One of the senior associates cleared his throat. "Dante, we're days away from finalizing major agreements. In this," he gestured to the photos displayed on a tablet. "This is destabilizing everything we've worked for." Another voice chimed in. "Is it true? Is the child yours? People are already asking questions." Dante didn't flinch. "Yes, she's my daughter, and Maya deserves respect, not rumor." The room erupted, voices overlapping, reckless, irresponsible, potential exposure. Isabella's voice cut through, calm and sharp. "You're jeopardizing everything your father built. Admit nothing. Handle it quietly." Dante turned to her. For years, he had obeyed that tone. Today, his reply was different. "No, I won't erase them to protect us." Meanwhile, outside the building where Maya once worked, a reporter cornered her as she stepped out with groceries. "Miss Lopez, do you have a statement about your relationship with Dante Santoro?" She froze, clutching the baby carrier closer. For a second, fear almost won. But then she spoke, voice steady. "I'm not a scandal. I'm a mother. My child deserves truth, not whispers." The clip went viral within hours. That evening, Dante showed up at Maya's door again, this time looking worn but resolute. "They're going to fight this hard, but I'm not stepping back." Maya searched his eyes. There was no hesitation, no polished facade, just a man bracing against a storm. She nodded slowly, heart pounding. "Then neither will I." The city was still buzzing when the hospital called Maya into a meeting. Inside a small office with frosted glass walls, the administrator folded his hands. "Maya, we've had reporters waiting outside all day. This is affecting patient privacy. Until things settle, we can't have you on shift." Her throat tightened. She wasn't even on payroll anymore, just volunteering to stay close to the environment she once loved. But even that was being stripped away. She walked out of the office carrying her baby, the hallway lights buzzing overhead, every step echoing like rejection. At the same time, Dante sat across from the family council again. Documents were stacked like weapons. One of the older men slid a file toward him. If you don't issue a statement denying paternity, we'll have no choice but to distance the family from this situation until it ends. Dante didn't touch the paper. His jaw clenched. You're asking me to lie about my daughter. Isabella broke her silence, voice cold, almost pleading. You're not just a man, Dante. You're part of something bigger. Think carefully before you throw everything away. He looked at her, the woman who raised him, the voice that had guided every decision, and felt the ground shift. For once, he said quietly, I'm thinking as a father, not as a name. The room froze. That night, Maya's apartment windows flickered with camera flashes from the street below. She shut the curtains, heart racing as the baby stirred in her arms. A sudden knock made her tense. It was Dante. His shirt was wrinkled, his coat gone, exhaustion etched in his face. They're coming after both of us now, he said. His voice was low, steady, but beneath it was fire. The family, the press, even my own mother. They want this child invisible. Maya met his eyes, anger rising through the fear. My daughter is not a liability. He nodded once fiercely. She's my daughter too. And tomorrow, I'm proving it. Morning broke gray over Chicago, but the street outside Maya's building was anything but quiet. News vans lined the block. Cameras clicked each time her curtains shifted. The baby stirred, fussing at the intrusion of light and noise. Inside, Maya paced the small living room, clutching her daughter. Every knock, every vibration of her phone sent her heart racing. Headlines already flooded social media. Santoro scandal deepens. Unknown child tied to family. Then came the sharpest blow. A courier slid an envelope under her door. Legal papers stamped with the law firm's insignia. Isabella's move. It was a petition for temporary custody review, claiming Maya was unfit to protect the child from media exploitation. Her hands trembled. They're trying to take her, she whispered. Dante stormed into the private office that same morning, refusing the scripted statement laid on his desk. We're not erasing her existence, he told his closest associate. We're done with silence. The council erupted, warning of exposure, collapsing agreements. But Dante stood, voice cutting through the noise. This is my child. If you want someone who lies, find someone else. The silence that followed was heavier than any storm. That afternoon, Dante appeared at Maya's apartment. Cameras swarmed as he walked up the steps, but he didn't flinch. When she opened the door, he didn't speak at first. He simply held up a copy of the petition. His eyes burned. They're not taking her from us. Tomorrow we go to the hospital records office. We show the truth. Maya clutched her daughter tighter. Fear trembled in her voice. What if they don't believe us? Dante stepped closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. Then I'll stand in front of every camera in the city and tell them myself. Maya searched his face, the man once hidden behind walls of family control, and for the first time, she believed him. The auditorium at Chicago General was never meant for battles like this. Rows of seats filled with doctors, administrators, and a press contingent pressed against the back wall. The hum of voices died the moment Dante Santoro walked in, Maya beside him, their baby in her arms. Isabella Santoro sat at the front table, posture regal, expression unreadable. In her hands lay the petition documents. To her, this was a negotiation of power. To Dante, it was war for truth. The moderator cleared his throat. This hearing concerns the well-being of the child and the reputation of the Santoro family. Statements will be entered into the record. Isabella stood first. Her voice was calm, polished, rehearsed. My son has been under extraordinary stress. This situation has been manipulated. We must act to protect both the family and this innocent child from exploitation. Her gaze cut toward Maya, sharp as glass. Maya's arms tightened around her baby. She stayed silent, but the fire in her eyes spoke volumes. Dante rose slowly, sliding a folder across the table. You speak of protection, Mother, but this, he tapped the folder, voice steady, this is what you call protection. Inside lay hospital files retrieved from archives, authorization forms. One bore Isabella's signature from the year Maya disappeared, a directive to transfer Maya out of the hospital network and terminate all contact with Dante. Gasps rippled through the room. Isabella's face froze for the briefest second before she regained composure. You don't understand the pressures at that time. I did what I thought was necessary. Dante's voice dropped, low but cutting. No, you did what was convenient. You silenced her. You silenced me. And you stole a year of my daughter's life from me. The room was still. Even the reporters leaned forward. Pens halted. Isabella's mask slipped. Dante, if this goes public, the family will... The family, Dante interrupted, can turn their backs tomorrow. But I will not stand here and let my own child be treated like a liability. He turned toward the crowd, voice rising, firm and unshakable. This is my daughter. Maya is the mother of my child. They will not be hidden. Not by me, not by anyone. For the first time, Isabella faltered. Her authority met Dante's defiance head-on, and she saw in him not the obedient son shaped by her shadow, but a father who would burn every bridge to protect what was his. Maya exhaled, trembling, not from fear, but release. For once, she was not fighting alone. The press wasted no time. Reporters stormed out of the auditorium as soon as Dante's words landed, their cameras flashing like lightning. By the time he, Maya, and the baby reached the corridor, headlines were already going live. Across Chicago's news feeds, Dante Santoro claims paternity in public showdown. Family rift exposed inside Santoro dynasty. Maya's knees weakened, not from shame, but from the crushing weight of exposure. She clutched her daughter closer. Dante's hand steadied her elbow. Outside the hospital, a wall of microphones waited. The cold night air bit against their skin, but it was nothing compared to the sting of questions. Mr. Santoro, are you stepping away from the family? Miss Lopez, were you paid to stay silent? Who forged the hospital directives? Maya's lips parted, but Dante raised a hand. His voice carried, calm but firm. There will be no more silencing. The documents you've seen today speak for themselves. Maya Lopez is the mother of my child. No amount of influence will change that truth. The crowd roared with overlapping questions, but the declaration was enough. A clear headline. Undeniable. Irreversible. From across the throng, Isabella appeared, flanked by two family advisors. Her composure cracked only slightly. Her eyes locked on Dante, then flicked to the baby. For a fleeting second, her jaw trembled. Not from defeat, but from the realization that the son she raised no longer belonged to her world of shadows. Back inside, in the quiet of a hospital waiting lounge, Maya finally spoke. Her voice was low, edged with exhaustion. You just burned every bridge you had. Dante turned toward her, shoulders squared. Some ties need to break. I'd rather stand in the open with you and her than live behind their walls. Maya's throat tightened. For the first time, the fight wasn't hers alone. But Isabella was not finished. That night, television anchors repeated her counterstatement. I will not allow the future of what we built to be jeopardized by impulsive choices. This family deserves stability, and I intend to protect it. It was no longer just a family rift. It had become a public reckoning. Weeks later, Chicago felt quieter. Not because the city had slowed down, but because Maya's life finally carried a rhythm that wasn't ruled by fear. At the park near Lake Michigan, the stroller wheels crunched over gravel. Dante walked beside her, one hand lightly brushing the handle, the other slipping into his coat pocket against the morning chill. The baby stirred, a soft coo carried by the wind. For the first time, there were no cameras, no family advisors, no lawyers, just the three of them, a small unit that had fought its way into existence. Maya broke the silence, her voice softer than he'd ever heard. I thought peace like this was impossible. Dante's gaze followed the horizon where the lake caught the first strike of sunlight. I used to think control meant strength, but this, his hand rested briefly over hers on the stroller. This feels more like it. They paused by the water's edge. Dante lifted his daughter into his arms. Her tiny fingers curled around the collar of his coat, tugging with innocent force. His laugh was quiet, unguarded, almost boyish. The kind of laugh Maya hadn't heard in years. For a moment, she simply watched. The man who had once been distant, consumed by legacy, now holding life as if it were the only thing that mattered. He looked at her then, eyes steady. I can't erase what they took from us, but I can promise this: no more secrets, no more walls, just us, the way it should have been. Her throat tightened, but she nodded. No declarations, no grand speeches, just truth finally allowed to breathe. A few weeks later, Dante formally stepped back from the inner family operations, moving into a role that allowed him freedom rather than chains. Isabella, defeated in the public eye, retreated into silence. The legacy she tried to protect had shifted into something different, not built on concealment, but on choice. 1 year on, under the blooming trees by the lake, a small gathering stood quietly. Maya wore a simple dress, Dante a plain suit. There was no press, no spectacle, just close friends, a few witnesses, and their daughter asleep in her stroller. As they exchanged vows, sunlight flickered across the water, reflecting against Maya's eyes. Dante whispered a promise only she could hear. This time, I won't let anyone steal the future from us. The baby stirred again, stretching her arms as if reaching for both of them. Maya laughed softly through her tears. Hand in hand, they walked forward, the stroller rolling beside them, the lake wind brushing gently across their faces. Some truths cannot be buried, and when faced with them, we don't just find what was lost. We discover who we were meant to become. For Maya and Dante, truth was not the end of their story. It was the beginning.